Put yourself in the fast lane with Xfinity X5. Internet that's more than just fast. With Xfinity X5, it's Wi-Fi coverage that delivers the speed your devices need and the reliability and security to keep your crew.
The drivers of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Championship have waited over 6 months to get their 2021 season started, and they did just that yesterday here at Circuit of the Americas. Round 2 of the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship up next. Let's take it back to round 1, though, from yesterday. Dry racetrack here in Austin, and the action started right at the drop of the green flag. Keep your eyes on that purple number 27 inside the second row. That's Richard Antonucci, experienced in this championship, and he wastes no time trying to get that car to the front. Alex Udell, a good battle there. Problems for the 7. Mark Issa, a spin over in turn 13 in the number 7 Lamborghini Huracan Evo. Little greasy racetrack with NASCAR cars on this racetrack as well. And then the problems started. John Hennessy into the back of Randy Solari. That creates tire rub for Solari, and that is going to come back and haunt him just a little bit later. That's actually John Hennessy right there in the 33 into the 7, creates significant damage. And this was interesting because it happened right at the pit window, the mandatory pit window in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship that comes 20 minutes into the race and lasts for 30. We talked about that tire rub for Randy Solari coming back to haunt him. It did. That tire down in the S's. No problems at all for this man, though. Dream Racing, the number 27, Richard Antonucci, takes a victory. What a way to start 2021. Celebration in pit lane. He'll look to make it 2 in a row from here at COTA today. Welcome in, everyone. Brian Till along with racing expert Jeremy Shaw, the man with the encyclopedic brain as far as racing history and stats go. Jeremy, welcome in, but a very different looking racetrack and weather conditions today.
Well, it certainly is, Brian. We had rain yesterday morning for qualifying, but the race yesterday was dry. The track is sort of dryish at the moment, but certainly there's rain in the air, so it's going to be really, really interesting, I think, during this 50-minute race.
Cars now behind the safety cars. You see windshield wipers on some. Set the grid for us, Jeremy.
Yeah, there's going to be 30 cars. 29 cars will be starting. John Hennessy not starting as a result of yesterday's incident. Row 15 is Tom Kerr in car number 74, alongside Chris London in car number 22. Alone on row 14, Scott Wellham in number 82. Row 13 is Ophir Levy in car number 31 and Scott Schmidt in car number 38. Bart Collins in car number 4 and Mark Issa will share row 12 on the grid. Row 11 is Mel Johnson in car number 86 and Bill Pelichowski in car number 62. In the 10th row, car number 36, yesterday's LB Cup winner was Matt Dickin alongside Jordan Missing in car number 53. Terry Olsen, fastest of the LB Cup contenders in the car number 47, is 18th alongside Randy Solari in car number 03. Ashton Harrison in car number 25 and Luke Berkeley in car number 23 will share row 8. Ahead of them on the grid, Alan Metney from Austin, Texas in car number 99 alongside Victor Gomez in car number 29 to the AM champion from last year. Brandon Godovic will start car number 46 from the 12th position alongside Danny Formal in car number 1. Row 5, Gianni Torino, yesterday's AM winner, is fastest of the AM cars in qualifying. He will start in the 10th position in car number 88 alongside Scott Andrews in car number 13. Row 4, Sergio Jimenez in car number 44 for Anson Motorsports alongside Daniel Mancinelli in car number 11. Jacob Edson will start in the 6th position in car number 6 alongside the young Dutchman Max Wearing, car number 61. Row 2 is Alec Udell in car number 48 alongside Loris Spinelli, who is fastest of the Pro-Am contenders in car number 51. And on the front row, yesterday's race winner Richard Antonucci in car number 27 and the pole sitter Stephen McAleer in car number 16 for Change Racing.
Field now coming through turn 20, the pace car in pit lane. You can see the windshield wipers going back and forth. Anticipation. Antonucci, so good at the start yesterday. The field lined up nicely. This is what the officials want to see, and McAleer wants to see that rain in that light blue and white Bud Light number 16 on the pole. They were so good in the rain. He and Madison Snow, who share that car. Field looks absolutely fantastic. Green flag waves and a jump by Daniel Mancinelli there in the 3rd row. That black and fluorescent yellow car, a good jump at the start. Cars already over into pit lane, and look at this, McAleer sliding back into 2nd. And it is treacherous going through turn one, and the racetrack is going to change every single lap, every single corner, Jeremy, with the rain now coming down.
Yeah, it is really treacherous out there. Everybody's on that slick tire. So
oh, and a big crash. That's the 61.
Max Wearing.
Wearing with a great run yesterday. A lot of experience in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo, but not much experience on this racetrack, especially in these conditions. And I think these conditions are some of the most challenging, Jeremy, when it just starts to get damp. But that was a big hit and a big off over there in turn 3. Meanwhile, the racing continues up front. Expect to go full course caution. They're going to let the field get settled down before they throw the flag, I would imagine. And now a problem for the 99, Alan Metni. Racetrack really getting slick.
Yeah, that's really treacherous out there right now. Loris Spinelli using his experience from Italy to take the lead in that Italian flag liveried car in car number 51 for Torino Racing. That team brand new to the championship this season. You see the rain on the camera lens there. It's really tricky right now, and I think race control is going to, the full course caution has come out or has not come out.
Yeah.
Yes, it has come out. So we are under full course caution, and I think this is going to be an opportunity for all of the cars to come onto the pit lane and perhaps make a mandatory change onto wet weather tires. We'll have to wait and see what happens. There's Randy Solari, last year's LB Cup champion, is off the road and out of the race as well.
For Wearing, he is disappointed. Let's see why. He comes into the shot and he's already moving to the right. I'm wondering if he had help, Jeremy.
Yeah, it could be there was another car right behind him there, and all of a sudden that car speared off to the right-hand side.
So he's already off. It would have been the number 1, I think, that would have been right behind him, but hard to really tell from either one of those views. That's on the run to turn 3. You've come out of the downhill right-hand turn 2, and on that run to turn 3, an odd place to have a problem like that and have the car go right, unless he just loses the back end. 620 horsepower, and even with traction control, difficult to get grip on these slick tires.
Yes.
The incident for the 99 of Metni.
So the local driver there from Austin, Texas, unfortunately the local knowledge not playing in Alan Metni's favor, and he goes for a spin and an I-Fly car number 99.
As Wearing climbs over the wall, it's like we said, even with all of the sophistication as far as traction control and anti-lock brakes, you see the disappointment. Even with all that technology, as the grip goes away, at some point in time, physics is physics, and you just can't control that car. You think about the weight of one of these Huracan Evos. They're about 2,800 pounds, so you kind of get them moving on that slick pavement, and even though you try to rely on some of that driver aid that is there, you just can't get it back under control. And we're not exactly sure what happened to the 61, what started the incident. We certainly are sure of how the incident ended, and that's with the 61 in the wall. Full course caution is out. Now the question is, Jeremy, would it be a mandatory change to rain tires? The officials certainly can call that, but at the same point in time, if the conditions warrant, it's one of those deals where a lot of times, if you're not generating spray, there's not enough water to keep a rain tire cool, but there's not enough grip in the slick.
No, I mean, they would red flag the race if conditions became what they're judged to be too dangerous. Right now, you know, the problem, of course, all these cars starting this race on stone cold tires, no tire warmers. Of course, the Lamborghini Super Trofeo. So stone cold tires are trying to build some heat into those tires on the first few laps, but when the track is damp, that's awfully difficult to do. So it's really tricky. And you know, all of the 29 cars that started this race all running exactly the same equipment. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo Evo, 620 horsepower, just a massive potential in these cars in terms of grip, speed, and power. And they're very difficult to control. But there are 4 classes in this race, 4 classes of drivers. We've got pro drivers, we've got pro ams, we've got amateurs, we've also got LB Cup contenders as well. And those are the least experienced drivers in this field. And for some of those guys, many of them brand new to racing. A couple of them, this is their very first pro race this weekend. So this is a really steep learning curve, particularly for them.
Yeah, you get thrown into the deep end for sure. We understand the start is under review as well. And in IMSA competition, which Lamborghini Super Trofeo runs under the IMSA banner, the columns need to be lined up and you need to stay in column formation until you cross the start line. So the officials are looking back to see if they had issues with that, anybody well out of line, and improving positions within columns. As the 48, Alec Udell being shown back in 7th, another Texan, born and raised in the Woodlands just north of Houston, in that 48. A great opportunity for Alec Udell this year in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo Championship. And a lot of these drivers looked at this series and said, is this a place we want to run? And you get an opportunity like Alec Udell did with Kelly Moss Road and Race, a team very experienced in one make series. You got to jump on that. And I think Kyle Marcelli doing the same thing. Another driver who's won championships in other IMSA categories said, hey, I had a chance to do this with Prestige Performance and Wayne Taylor Racing, and with their pedigree, why would I not? You look at the depth of the pro field here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, Jeremy, and it's stellar. These drivers have championships and race experience anywhere from the 24 Hours of Le Mans to Formula One to Formula E to championships within other IMSA categories. And a problem for the 44.
It is quite remarkable, the depth of talent in this field. It's the biggest field they've ever had in the Super Trofeo North America. The previous record was 26 cars back in 2015. We had 30 cars to start this weekend, including, as you say, one of the drivers in the field has Formula One experience, Nelson Piquet Jr. He never won a Grand Prix, but he did finish second in the German Grand Prix back in 2008, I think it was. He's also the Formula E champion as well. I think that was the first season, wasn't it, of Formula E? So massively experienced for him. And, he's brand new to these cars, making his debut yesterday in one of the cars for ANSA Motorsports, Nelson Piquet Jr. That's car number 44, currently running in the 8th position, but it is a stellar field of drivers.
Spinelli out in front, then Stephen McAleer. McAleer sharing that car with Madison Snow. And as I said, throughout the practice sessions, I was talking to Stephen, and he said they just couldn't get a handle on the car in dry conditions, but in wet, the two were spectacular. Madison Snow qualified second for yesterday's race. The race was in the dry, but qualifying was in the wet. And Stephen was saying, hey, I want it wet for our race because we've got a really good race car in the wet. Interesting, though, Jeremy, this is not really wet. It's kind of that in between, and it's probably one of the most difficult track conditions you can run in. And when you look at the shape of this racetrack, it's very long. It's very similar to a place like Watkins Glen, where literally you can have a deluge on one end of the racetrack and the other end of the racetrack be completely dry. So as these drivers negotiate the 3.4 miles and the 20 corners here, you really don't know what you're going to get. And there's some really high speed areas here at Circuit of the Americas and some very low speed corners as well. Heavy braking zones like down into turn 11, turn 12, turn 20, but some very high speed flowing sections of the race, like a racetrack through 3 all the way through turn 9 and 10.
Yeah, it's a challenging track in the best of conditions, and when it's like this as well, right now as it is right now, even more difficult. But what a great start that was from Loris Spinelli there in car number 51. He's hugely experienced in these sorts of cars. He ran the Lamborghini Super Trofeo in North America back in 2018. He won the Pro-Am category then. He won 2 races overall in addition to the 8 Pro-Am wins during that season, making his return to the series this year with this brand new team, Torino Racing, in conjunction with Sienna Motors, and Claude Signoretti from Brazil will be his co-driver in this race. Claude, a lot less experience. That's why this car is running in the Pro-Am class this weekend, but it is that car, number 51, with an Italian flag livery, that leads this race.
50-minute race. All of the races are 50 minutes with a mandatory pit stop, and that pit stop has to come after the 20-minute mark and before the 30-minute mark, and it is mandatory. You have to do it. It's a 91-second pit stop from pit in to pit out for teams that have a 2-driver format, and 94 seconds for teams with a 1-driver format. And that may seem odd, Jeremy, that the 1-driver format pit stop is a little bit longer, but there's a good reason for it.
There is indeed, because the drivers who've already started this race and will be continuing solo through the whole event, they know the track conditions, they know how the car is handling. Those who are hopping in at the half distance mark, or around about the half distance mark in this race, they have no idea what the track is like, or even how the car is handling on the racetrack. So there's that 3-second buffer to give those drivers who are just getting in the car a little bit of an opportunity to get up to speed, so to speak, with those that have already been out on the racetrack for the first half of this race. This is the number 13 car. It's on the pit lane. One of the 2 ANSA Motorsports car. It was Nico Jamin who qualified on the pole position yesterday, the young Frenchman, sharing that car with the Aussie Scott Andrews. Andrews finished yesterday's race, so starts today's race. He is in the car. Also, the other ANSA Motorsports car, we talked about him just a few minutes ago, Nelson Piquet Jr. and Sergio Jimenez, who's starting this race. He was also in the pits at the end of the first lap, so not a good last lap for this ANSA Motorsports team.
Good to see in the background the flatbed with the 61 on it. The safety vehicle's getting out of the way. The safety team here at Circuit of the Americas, one of the best you'll find anywhere in North America. Not only are they quick, but they're incredibly thorough, and that's what's important. Great thing about this racetrack, with it being an FIA Grade A racetrack, there's access for safety vehicles all around. They won't have to drive around the entire racetrack back to pit lane to drop this car off. There are cuts that they can pull through the guardrail and into what they call inner ring roads and get these cars out of the way. The truck pulling off the racetrack now as we speak, and they'll get the 61 out of the way, the safety vehicles off the racetrack, and hopefully we'll be back to green flag racing very soon. In fact, the light's off on the safety car, and that's good news. That's interesting. You could tell on the camera lenses, Jeremy, there's more moisture in certain areas of the racetrack. It looks like over in the S's, there's a fair amount. Down the back straightaway into turn 12, it seems to be a little bit drier, but from a driving perspective, you have to understand something. At 160 plus miles an hour down the back straightaway, it's hard to see small raindrops on the windshield because they dissipate so quickly. And so as a driver, you're going to rely on spotters, and you're going to rely on the color of the asphalt to try to ascertain how much moisture's on it. In other areas of the racetrack, or when the rain's coming down very hard, if you're going slower, it's easier to tell you've got moisture on your windshield. But this is going to be a place and a time where the drivers are really, really going to have to focus.
Yeah, the pace car has pulled off, so we are going to go back to green. Loris Spinelli will lead the race from Stephen McAleer in second place. Yesterday's winner, Richard Antonucci, in third. Jacob Edson up to fourth position in car number 6. Then Daniel Mancinelli, there's number 13 car. Scott Andrews, he's pulled off the road. We saw him come into the pits. He's made it out of the pit lane, but it looks like he's not going to be able to continue in this race. What a shame for that number 13 team after a brilliant qualifying effort yesterday by Nico Jamin.
Yeah, Lamborghini Broward will certainly be disappointed by that, as the entire ANSA Motorsports team will be. The restart zone is through turn 20, and that's exactly what Spinelli does. He gets that V10 singing as they head down the front straightaway. We're back under green. And a nice orderly restart. This is not what Stephen McAleer wants. You can see a dry line, and Richard Antonucci very aggressive with the move down on the 6, trying to keep Jake Edson in the 6 from getting by. A really aggressive move in the braking zone of turn 1. Antonucci holds the spot. Jacob Edson is going to have to settle for 4th right now.
Yeah, that was a very bold effort there by Jacob Edson to try and get into the 3rd position.
Antonucci very loose. Sorry, Jeremy. Antonucci very loose, but there's probably not a more experienced driver behind the wheel of one of these Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evos than Richard Antonucci. We've talked about it. He is one of the drivers that Lamborghini relied on to develop this car, and I think that experience was just shown there in the S's as that car got very loose. And I wonder, was it cold tires, was it moisture on the racetrack, or was it a combination of both?
Yeah, combination of both most likely. And the news from race control, there's a drive-through penalty for car number 11. That's Daniel Mancinelli in that car, the car number 11 for TR3 Racing. He was judged to have jumped the initial start. He would have to come in and serve a drive-through penalty.
Well, I mentioned that as the field came down the front straightaway, and he certainly popped out. I didn't get a replay, so I couldn't see when the green flag waved, but when you drive a car that colored, it's pretty obvious when you move, you don't blend in very well. And I was wondering if perhaps that's the reason that the start was under review. Daniel Mancinelli, a very talented driver, and the TR3 Racing team, good to see them here in the Lamborghini of Miami entry. But for Mancinelli, the young Italian, 32 years old, he's got experience in all different types of GT championships, and he's a great guy. Just a real bubbly personality, but I think the adrenaline just got the best of him there at the start, and he peaked out and jumped a little too soon. That's going to cost him a drive-through.
Yeah, that's going to be very, very costly in this 50-minute race. So he didn't come in this time around. He's got a couple of laps in which to serve that penalty, but it's still McAleer who leads by maybe a couple of seconds, a little bit less than that over Stephen McAleer. Richard Antonucci in third place, just ahead of Jacob Edson. Mancinelli, whoops, is fifth. And there's a big slide by Jacob Edson.
He's got to cut down right rear tire.
He has.
Yep, a cut down right rear tire, and that's not what you want to have anywhere around this racetrack, but especially on the way into turn one, because, Jeremy, it means 3.4 miles around to get help and get back to the pit lane.
Yeah, that's really unfortunate for Jacob Edson. It's going to be a long, long way around, and that's going to be very costly. Last season, he and Stephen Agakani in this number 6 car for the what is now Agara Motorsports with US Racetronics, they came within 3 points of the championship, having come back from adversity on a couple of occasions during the season. They won 4 races. Once again, they're going to lose valuable points here this morning.
And for Edson, he's the 2019 North American Pro-Am champion. He knows how to win races. He knows how to win championships. That's why he's co-driving with young Stephen Agakani. Agakani certainly knows how to win races, but winning championships is another ball game altogether. It's about the consistency and putting it together, and they looked poised to do that last year. And as you said, adversity in just a couple of rounds kept them from hoisting the big trophy at the end of the season, and now adversity again here in round 2. But you can make up for that, and really kind of the same thing I would say to the TR3 group. You've got that penalty. One of the things that's not going to happen is officials rarely change their mind. If you serve it now, then you can come back in, do your regular pit stop, and hopefully get a full course caution after that and move yourself back up. The longer you sit out and argue, the less time you have to make up for it. And if you get a full course caution and you haven't served your penalty yet, then it does you absolutely no good at all.
Really good lap here from Stephen McAleer. He's closed up on Loris Spinelli as the leaders complete lap 6 in this 50-minute race. We're just about half an hour to go.
Take a look at the 4th car in the left-hand column, and there you see Daniel Mancinelli. Yeah, he actually picked up an entire position. I thought he was in the 3rd row at the start, and the reason I did it is because he's going to go completely around the 61 before they get to the start line. You cannot move out of your column, and you can't improve position. Green flag is waving. They're not to the line yet. There's the line, and he's already past the 61 and in front of him, and there's the penalty, and it's pretty clear cut, and the rules are clear cut as well. 1 minute to the pit window, and like I said, my advice for the TR3 team would be to get Mancinelli to pit lane as quickly as you can. But what an impressive job Spinelli doing in the 51. You talked about how strong he is. Well, Signoretti, his teammate, had the fastest race lap overall yesterday. So
it was Spinelli who said that fastest race lap yesterday.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was the timing and scoring error.
It was, yeah. But it was a great last lap by Stephen McAleer. He set the fastest lap on the race last lap around Stephen McAleer, 2 minutes 9.1. That's pretty good speed in these conditions. Yesterday, the fastest lap of the race wasn't much quicker than that. The fastest lap yesterday was a 2:07. No, it wasn't. It was a 2:09 flat, in actual fact. The lap record is a 2:07. fastest lap yesterday by Spinelli with a 209.0, and McAleer on that last lap, despite these drizzly conditions, was within a tenth of a second of that. But now on this lap, Spinelli has really got his act together. He's pulling away again from Stephen McAleer in second place.
Pit window is now open, and it's got to be disappointing for Jacob Edson, and I don't know how you would time this out as a team. We saw Jacob Edson in the number 6 moving down pit lane. He had that cut down right rear tire. He's made it back to the pits, but he got to the pits about 15 seconds before the pit window opened.
Oh.
Almost like if you had kind of been keeping track of it, perhaps you could have stopped him on the racetrack offline somewhere for 15 seconds. So he could have gotten all of that done at one time, but he's changed the tire and he came in before the pit window's open. So he's going to have to do another pit stop and do a driver change as well.
Yeah, that's an error by that team. They should have kept him out just to park it on the racetrack for 15 seconds before he came onto the pit lane. I think that wasn't the smartest move. But the pit window is open. Richard Antonucci is the first of the contenders. The third, fourth, and fifth place cars, excuse me, all came onto pit lane. And the number 11 car was running in the fourth position as a result of the miscue for Jacob Edson in terms of that tire going down. So he will be now in the pits. That's Daniel Mancinelli. I think he was, I'm not sure whether that was his penalty he was serving or his mandatory pit stop, because he's going to make 2 pit stops in the number 11 car. The number 62 also goes on to pit lane. That's Bill Pelichewski, who was one of the LB Cup contenders.
Wild Bill Pelichewski, as you called him yesterday. Very experienced driver, and he always thrilling to watch. Speaking of thrilling, the purple 27, the Bitbull Capital Lamborghini Vegas Dream Racing Lamborghini of Richard Antonucci heads back out of the pit lane after sitting for 94 seconds, and that has to seem like an eternity when you're not doing a driver change, you're not taking fuel, you're not taking tires. 94 seconds from pit in to pit out, and you need to sit still for 63 of those seconds. That has to seem like a long time. Timing and scoring will cycle through as this pit stop window remains open for 10 minutes. You've got that time, and this is the strategic part of it. The teams are looking at who the driver is that started the race and a problem for the 88.
That's Gianni Torino, who is leading the AM category. He was running in the 4th position, and Gianni has not made his pit stop. And look like there's a big piece of rubber debris.
Yeah, I believe that's in turn 15, and I would think it's part of the carcass, more than likely from the 6 of Jacob Edson.
So Spinelli did not come into pit lane. Spinelli is a good bit quicker than his much less experienced teammate Claude Signoretti. So Spinelli will stay out until the end of the pit window, which will be closing in about 7 minutes time. So Spinelli can stay out as long as he possibly can before handing over that car to Signoretti. Meanwhile, the second place car of Stephen McAleer, he is on pit lane and will hand over that car to Madison Snow, last year's champion in Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
Well, that's what we were talking about too, Jeremy. It's that strategy side of who's in the car right now, who's the fastest, who can make more time by staying on the racetrack. As smoke there out of the back. Was that the 88 again? It is. And we typically don't see this. The Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo, a very mechanically sound car. I wonder if that's some type of a tire rub or what have you. Mechanical issues with these cars are incredibly rare, and that is amazing to me, considering 620 horsepower, over 400 foot-pounds of torque, and 70% of this race car is the street car. The idea that you can press that hard shows you just what type of a supercar Lamborghini is built.
What a super driver Loris Spinelli is as well. He's just 1 minute 7.88. Oh. That's more than a second quicker than yesterday's fastest lap in these pretty tricky conditions. I think the track is certainly dry. The moisture that was falling a little while ago seems to have stopped right now, but still it's a stunning lap. The race lap record here was 207.0. That was set back in 2015 by Eduardo Piscopo. But the track since then has, it's not, let's say it's not nearly as smooth as it was back in 2015.
Well, and I'm looking at timing and scoring, Jeremy. I'm not seeing anybody within 2 seconds or a second and a half of that lap time right now. Stephen McAleer just clicked off a 209, so after this pit stop, times will be a little bit quicker, but a 209 to a 207.8 well over a second quicker. And as you said it, Spinelli putting on a clinic.
He certainly is, and Brandon Godovic has just brought the second place car into pit lane, car number 46. That's the Precision Performance Motorsports entry. Brandon Godovic will hand over to Brian Ortiz, and he was running second in the Pro-Am category.
Crew looking in the engine compartment on the 88, and typically, again, you don't see that. There's where the problem started. Looks like, is that contact that creates the spin? There's the aftermath, but couldn't tell if the 88 was already around or if there was another car involved in that initial shot that we had.
I think he was really close to anybody in particular, possibly Danny Formal in the number 1 car who was ahead of him. They both came into the pits at the same time. Don't know, curious that one. But certainly not good news for yesterday's winner in the AM class. A tremendous debut yesterday for Gianni Torino. Meanwhile, his teammate for the Torino Racing entry, Loris Spinelli, continues to lead. Last time around was a 2 minutes 8.1, so that's 3 laps super closely together. The 2 minutes 8.0, 2 minutes 7.8, and 2 minutes 8.1.
We talk about minimum pit stop times. As you look at the leaderboard right now, pit stops continuing to take place in this window that will close in about 3.5 minutes. Alan Metney being shown in second. How important are the pit stops? Well, he had a great run going, battling for the lead yesterday in class, but had a penalty, a drive-through penalty for being short on the pit stop, and that really potentially took the AM victory away. He dominated the IMSA Porsche GT3 Cup Masters champion the last 3 seasons, made the move to Lamborghini Super Trofeo, but I think a lot of these time pit stops, the teams have to learn them as well. Change Racing should certainly know them. Change Racing won the championship in all 4 divisions last year, but it's easy to get it a little bit wrong, and it doesn't matter whether it's a lot wrong time-wise, Jeremy, or a little bit wrong. If you're under the pit stop time, there's going to be a penalty.
Actually, if you let within a second, I think it is. It's just there's a time penalty. I think it's double the time you were short. If it's more than a second, then you have a drive-through penalty.
Correct.
So there's kind of a little bit of fudge room there. It's allowed for these teams, but it was, if it's longer than that, then it is a full drive-through penalty. Number 11, just coming out of the hairpin, he has served his penalty for the jump start, but not yet has made his quote-unquote driver change. Of course, there is no driver change in number 11 car because Daniel Mancinelli will be driving solo in this race, but he still does need to serve his mandatory pit stop and a minimum time on the pit lane of 94 seconds.
So frustrating, but you just have to put that behind you, and you see the difference in speed in the different class cars. The cars exactly the same. They have the same horsepower. It is the same chassis, the same systems and everything, but he was going past Tom Kerr in the number 74 Kelly Moss Road and Race Lamborghini San Francisco Huracan, and look at him pull away. Tom Kerr, not nearly the experience of Daniel Mancinelli in this type of car, and I think that's one of the things that's so neat about this series is that all the entrants are driving the exact same equipment, and it gives you, as a non-professional driver, the opportunity to measure yourself against other pros in the field because you're all driving the same equipment. So you've got a really good idea of where you stand and where you need to improve. And I think the other great thing, Jeremy, is a lot of these teams running cars in multiple classes, if you're an AM driver or an LB Cup driver and you've got a pro category entrant on your team as well underneath that tent, that's a lot of data to look at and a lot of experience to pull from.
That's right. For a vascular surgeon, Tom Kerr is doing a pretty good job. If you put these race car drivers in the operating theatre, probably not such a good idea.
Not if I'm on the table.
No. So here is the pit stop there for our race leader. Loris Spinelli is on the pit lane now for Torino Racing, and it will be Claude Signorelli from Brazil who will take over that car for the closing portion of this race. Meanwhile, coming down the back straight as that car is in the pit lane is the next car in line. Second place at the moment, and he's yesterday's winner, Richard Antonucci, but close behind him, he took the lead from the number 16 of Stephen McAleer.
Oh,
That'll be Madison Snow, of course.
I I know that there are going to be people who disagree with me on this, but I didn't think that was quite sporting. Antonucci passed Madison Snow, and it happened at turn 11. He gets to the inside, but then just drives him off the racetrack, much as we see the 6 right there of Stephen Agakani doing. And I know that people have a different opinion, but it's clear in the rules. If you enter the corner side by side, the car that's on the outside must have room at the exit of the corner. And I feel like Madison Snow did not have room to stay on the racetrack. In fact, he was put over the big bumps at the exit. You're going to disagree with me, Jeremy, because I know you're pretty hardcore as far as that goes. But I don't know.
No, I'm not. To me, it's pretty clear. If you force another car off the road in order to gain a position, that should be a penalty. That's what the drivers were told before the race. So no, I think that's absolutely right. Another penalty, by the way, car number 46. That's Brandon Godovic and Brian Ortiz. A drive-through penalty for a short pit stop. So that's a critical penalty. That is the team that won yesterday's Pro-Am category. Brian Ortiz and Brandon Godovic, they have a maximum 15 points coming into this round, and that's going to be a penalty for the number 46.
Yeah, that is painful indeed. Like you said, they had a good run going today and a great run yesterday, and we talked about that. You've got to be so careful, and it's so easy to sit here at 0 miles an hour with zero pressure and say, just be patient. You're better off to be a second over on your stop than a second under. Just take it easy. But we're not in the heat of battle when we sit here and say that. But you look at the penalty that's involved, and it does make sense. A second over on your stop means nothing. It's 50 feet, 100 feet on the racetrack to your competitors. Under by a second, you're going to spend 30-something seconds driving down pit lane at the minimum, from pit in to pit out, and then you've got to get back up to speed. It's just not worth it, and it's so easy to make that mistake. Problems here for the 4.
Oops. It's Michael Minella and Bart Collins in the Nation Safe Drivers, car number 4 for MCR Racing.
A lot of times you spin one of these cars and they're difficult to get restarted. Is the 38 a partner in this? I don't think so. He's not close enough there. This is turn 20 onto the front straight, and no, from the apex out, you see the rear of the 4 begin to come around, and he's just lost it. Now the engine's probably stalled. It takes a while to refire it. You got to get the fuel back to it. A lot of times it gets loaded up with fuel. You got to get that through the exhaust. You'll see a lot of flame out of the exhaust from time to time on a restart. 4 back underway. Up into turn 1, Richard Antonucci now being shown on timing and scoring as getting past Spinelli in the 51, Madison Snow in 3rd, and Antonucci right back where he was for almost every single lap yesterday, with the exception of the pit stops, and that is up front. But now Madison Snow in the 16, the second car in your shot there, that light blue and white Bud Light, trying to get past the 51, a power move through the S's. It gets it done, and I'm wondering, obviously it's not Spinelli anymore in the 51. He's handed that car over, and I think they understand, Jeremy, that they're not racing in the same class as well, and you don't want to throw something away. Signoretti understands that they're leading the Pro-Am category, and you don't want to throw that away by battling with a car in the Pro category. Don't risk anything. Let that car go on by.
That's exactly right. Victor Gomez is running 2nd in Pro-Am in the 6th position overall. He's 16 seconds behind Spinelli, who leads the Pro-Am category, behind Signoretti, who leads the Pro-Am category right now. For some reason, the timing and scoring isn't showing the second drivers in the cars, which is irritating. But 16 seconds then between 1st and 2nd in Pro-Am, and there's just 2 other cars in between them on the racetrack. So Victor Gomez, last year's champion in the Am category, moved up this year to Pro-Am. From Puerto Rico is Victor, 24 years of age now, and he had a super season last season. There weren't many competitors for most of the year in Am, so he had a pretty easy run of it, but he's doing a nice job this weekend so far. He was 2nd yesterday in Pro-Am and currently in 2nd place as well, and trying to track down Claude Signoretti.
Alec Udell trying to get past the 51 as well. Udell doing a good job. Another native Texan. He works his way by 3rd overall, 3rd in Pro. and a good run in the 48, and another one of those very, very talented drivers is really just going to need experience in type. And we talked about this yesterday, and we talk about Richard Antonucci being one of the drivers who developed this Lamborghini Huracan Evo. Well, for a driver like Alec Udell or Kyle Marcelli, they don't have that seat time, and it's just the nuances and the belief in the car that are going to find you that half a tenth in the corners. We mentioned it yesterday, 20 corners around this racetrack, and if you think somebody's a half a second off and they must not be that good of a driver, well, think about what that means throughout 20 corners. Just a tenth in 20 corners is 2 seconds off. Yeah. So it's one of those deals where these drivers that are running up front and really all throughout the field, it's a very, very talented group. And for drivers like Alec Udell and Kyle Marcelli and other drivers who don't have a lot of time in type, it's just learning the nuances of these cars. 3 feet later in a braking zone, half a mile an hour through 100 feet of apex arc is going to find you a tenth here or a half a tenth there, and it's going to move you up the order, move you farther down the racetrack. That's exactly the experience that this man, Richard Antonucci, in that Bit Bull number 27 for Dream Racing has. He's got that experience.
He does, and right behind him on the racetrack, though, that's kind of a 6. That's Stephen Agakani, who is a front runner, or hopes to be a front runner in the championship. The bad news with that long lap, having got that puncture earlier in the race, had to limp a whole lap around here, 3.4 miles. The puncture occurred for Jacob Edson as he was exiting turn 1. So Agakani is now a lap down, but he's putting the pressure now on Richard Antonucci. Not too far behind this pair is Madison Snow, who's running in the second position. Also Alec Udell, another great run for Alec. He had a great debut yesterday in this championship to finish 4th. Now up onto the podium in 3rd. Behind him is Kyle Marcelli. Then it's Signoretti in the Pro-Am leading car number 51, but that gap from 1st to 2nd in Pro-Am is now down to 8 seconds. It's almost been halved by Victor Gomez over the last couple of laps. Next up in 7th position is the Am leader, that's Ashton Harrison. She's doing a fabulous job, and at Harrison contracting with Wayne Taylor Racing, car number 25, in 7th position overall.
And Bill Pilachewski leading in LB Cup. Good run for him today. Agakani mired there between Antonucci. I think just on the last couple of laps, Antonucci actually got past Agakani. But right now, Madison Snow, I'm sure, is starting to get on the radio. The 3rd car in the shot there, the light blue and white number 16 with the Bud Light sponsorship on it, on the radio saying, hey, when I get to the rear wing of the 6, you got to tell him to let me by, because I've got to try to catch Richard Antonucci. And it'll be interesting to see how difficult a time Agakani gives Madison Snow, if indeed Snow is able to get there. Remember, Agakani and Jacob Edson lost out on the championship last year, and who won it? Madison Snow.
Yeah, with yesterday a 2nd place finish for Madison Snow and Stephen McAleer. They're just 3 points behind this race leading car, Richard Antonucci. So it's the order at the front, not 2 positions, the same as yesterday. It's Antonucci again, way over that exit curbing, exceeding the track limits in turn 12. I'm amazed he's able to get away with this on a consistent basis.
Turn 20 as well. And I mean, one thing's for certain, Richard Antonucci, with the experience that he has and the talent that he has behind the wheel, is going to push the limits everywhere. It's what you do as a race car driver. Yeah. You push the limits of the car, you push the limits of the racetrack, you push the limits of the officials until you get a little push back. And as long as you're not getting pushed back, you keep doing what you're doing. Out of 19 that time, and Antonucci, the leader, to pit lane. This is going to be a penalty, we understand, for a pass under yellow. The lead gone. It happens just that quickly. We talk about being aggressive. Perhaps that aggressiveness has cost Richard Antonucci the lead, and with 10.5 minutes to go, it may cost the win. Madison Snow to the point. Alec Udell moves up to 2nd, Kyle Marcelli to 3rd, and Antonucci languishing with a 60-kilometer speed limit all the way down pit lane, now back out on the racetrack, and that is going to hurt, especially, you were just talking about it, Jeremy, a good run for Madison Snow and Stephen McAleer yesterday with a second place finish. If they can take the victory today, that is huge in the championship, and we are just at the first round of 6.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think we're about to see a pass for 5th position, which is for Pro-Am, with Victor Gomez right up with Claude Signoretti as they cross the start-finish line to complete lap 15, with still just under 10 minutes remaining in this race. The other significant car that had a drive-through penalty a while ago was number 46, you remember, the Precision Performance Motorsports entry. Brian Ortiz has served his penalty. He's just overtaken Jordan Mistig for 3rd position in Pro-Am, and he's now about 20 seconds behind Claude Signoretti in what would be potentially a change for 2nd and 3rd in Pro-Am, with Victor Gomez about to, or just has, moved into the lead.
Madison Snow has found victory lane in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Championship. His co-driver, Stephen McAleer, has not. He said, it's the only series that I've run that I don't have a win, and we want to change that this year. They want to change it today, but I'm looking at these shots, and that white car that was in the background is no longer in the background, Jeremy. That's Alec Udell in the 48, the Kelly Moss Road and Race entry, and he is closing in on our leader. It was 1.7 second gap. Now it's down to 1.6 the last time. And the lap times he's turning in are stellar. Alec Udell on a charge, trying to hunt down the 16 just in front.
Yeah, Alec Udell just turned his best lap of the race. Well, last time on 2 minutes 8.9. This time at 2 minutes 9.2. The race leader at 2 minutes 10.1. There's a crash there for number 82 car. That's Scott Wellham. He was running 6th position in LB Cup.
Oh no. Significant damage there to Wellham's car, and it does exactly what I thought it might do, Jeremy. With just over 8 minutes to go, there's going to be a full course caution. How quickly can this be cleaned up, and will it be a dash to the checkered now inside 8 minutes to go? That looks like it was in the braking zone for turn 12, and you could see the skid marks. Contact drivers left with the Armco barrier, and then the car now stranded with significant damage there to the outside of the corner at the exit. This will gather the field back up. Madison Snow now on the radio going, yeah, it looks like it's going to take a long time to clean that up, guys. Alec Udell going, hey, just drag it out of the way. Let's get going.
Yeah, wow. So this is the big guy who's going to gain from this full course caution, of course, is Richard Antonucci. He just served his drive-through penalty for overtaking under yellows earlier on. He's rejoined in the 4th position, just ahead of Victor Gomez, who has indeed overtaken Claude Signoretti for the lead in Pro-Am. 5th position overall then for car number 29. Daniel Mancinelli, despite his drive-through penalties, up into 7th place in car number 11, right behind those 2 Pro-Am cars when we get ready for the restart. That's a Pro entry for Mancinelli. Then the best of the Am contenders, Ashton Harrison. She's having by far her best result so far in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo.
See if we can find out what happens here. There's the damage. Car just comes into the shot, and there was there's a second car in shot, but looking at the speed differential, I would think that whoever that was behind was just kind of a witness to the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm not so sure that wasn't Ashton Harrison actually.
Yeah, but I don't know that
to her car. But I think the number 82, he was a lap down. So yeah, Scott Wellham was a lap down to the overall leaders, running in the 5th position in LB Cup. He's out of that car, Scott, from Louisville, Kentucky.
Always good to see the AMR safety team there immediately tending to all of these drivers, making sure that they're safe. The drivers put into the safety vehicle, and they'll all be taken to medical to be checked. That's just a precaution, and it's what you want, and that's one of the great things about this series. It's one of the great things about IMSA is that they're going to take care of their drivers. And I should also say take care of the teams, because any team member is welcome to head over to medical at any point in time. Headache, toothache, cut on your finger, strain on your knee, you name it, they take care of everyone in the paddock. And it's one of the great things about that safety team and the series as a whole as we close down on 5.5 minutes to go.
Yeah,
Madison Snow, Stephen McAleer looking for their first win of the season. They would leave Texas with a first and a second if it were to end this way. Can they get it cleaned up, Jeremy? Can they get it cleaned up in time? They're running 2-minute laps, so they only have a couple of minutes to get that stricken car out of the way if we hope to go back to green.
It was almost 3 minutes last time around, but the leaders are already onto that lap before the caution came out. So the next lap will be significantly slower than that, and I fear we might not have time. Oh, there's number 36 car. That is Matt Dickin, yesterday's LB Cup winner, also having a problem on this lap as well. I don't think he was involved in that incident that we just saw the replay of. But I was going to say, if we go back to green, the other guy to benefit from this in particular would be Stephen Agakani in car number 6, because remember he was behind Richard Antonucci. He is now, I believe, perhaps not. I thought he was back on the lead lap, but perhaps not, because I think he still was behind Madison Snow at the restart. So my apologies for that false alarm.
Well, no, I like the drama that you were building. That was
Thank you.
that was good indeed. What may be good for Madison Stowe and Stephen McAleer is that we are inside 4 minutes to go, and as we said, with 2-minute laps, it's going to be hard to get this restarted. I'm sure they're saying on the radio, hey, there's some guardrail damage down there on the left as well. You guys are going to want to take care of that. And in all seriousness, the track will do that. We will not go back to green if indeed the track is not safe to run on. You can see the skid marks there into the brake zone, and now I'm beginning to think, Jeremy, that either lockup occurred on the rear of that car, or the rear of that car was not on the ground because of a car behind it. So there may have been contact that sent the 82 into the guardrail there, because those skid marks certainly start from the normal line for Scott Wellham out in the brake zone and turn sharply left across the racetrack. So perhaps a down change done just a little too soon, but typically the technology doesn't allow that to happen like you could do in a manual shift car. And you can see the guardrail has had a significant impact. Drivers left, it's pushed back as the safety vehicle will remove the 82 off the racetrack with 2 minutes and 45 seconds left to go from here at COTA.
Yeah, and remarkably, I don't think in any of the 4 driver categories are we going to have a repeat winner from yesterday. Still, anything can happen with 2.5 minutes to go if we're able to go back to green. But if we don't go back to green at the end of this lap, then I think it's going to be, it is going to be too late, because the clock is going to expire, and the cars are coming up to the final corner now. So no, I think this is going to be the end of the race.
Yeah, I don't see how that would be possible there. The fast lap is 2:08, and so consequently I would expect to see a white flag, and indeed there it is as we cross the line with 2 minutes and 5 seconds left to go. So this round 2 of the 2021 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America will end under caution. It's not what anybody wanted to see. I know Madison Snow would have certainly loved to have taken the checkered flag in front of Alec Udell in a fight. Any way you look at it, though, it goes down in the books for a victory. So there'll be one more lap. They'll have to finish this lap to get to that checkered flag. But as you just said, Jeremy, no repeat winners, and that really bodes well and shows just how competitive the 2021 season of Lamborghini Super Trofeo here in North America is going to be.
Yeah, it's going to be sensational, I think, and super to see then 8 different winners on the weekend. I'll have a quick run down and see if we can get some championship points for you. Of course, they won't be even unofficial until they take the checkered flag, which would be another still 2 or 3 minutes from now. But it's been a really interesting race. Just such a shame it finished under yellow, because this was building up into a really good battle, not only at the front, but in several other of the classes as well.
Absolutely, and I think we've kind of gotten a taste of what we're going to see all season long. We see different driving styles. We've seen some mistakes on crews that have penalized the drivers as far as short pit stops and such go. We've seen mistakes on the part of the drivers, which have created penalties for them. So everybody makes mistakes. I think it's one of the really cool things about motorsports. Even as technological as the machinery may get, it's still a human that pilots it, and it is a human endeavor. It's those who make the fewest mistakes who will walk away with the championship. at the end of the season. We've seen some mistakes made today and yesterday. Teams and drivers will try to minimize those as we go throughout the rest of the season, but it shows some of the aggressive nature of some of the drivers, some of the teams, what they're willing to do to press it and put it all on the line to take home a victory in this championship. And it's one of the things that I think when Chris Ward, who is the senior manager of motorsports for Automobile Lamborghini America, did as he has continued to build this championship here in North America. He's brought in these teams, these drivers who are talented, who do have that charge inside of them to get to the front. 4 new teams with some great pedigrees in the series this year, bringing 9 new entries with them. That's the growth that we talked about, and it's something that I look forward to for the remainder of this season, because I think it's going to bring us some absolutely fantastic racing. A record grid here this weekend, both for round 1 and round 2.
Yeah, it's just stunning. There'll be a few less cars for the next couple of races, I think, at Virginia International Raceway early next month. That race was added very, very late as a result of the cancellation of the race north of the border that was scheduled for this season. So, but still, it's going to be a very tight field. There's certainly going to be lots of cars still, and it's going to be more really, really tight racing.
And it doesn't matter how you get to the checkered flag, as long as you get there, full course caution or not, they don't care. Change Racing, Lamborghini Charlotte will do what they have done many times before, and that's see the victory. But for Madison Snow and his teammate Stephen McAleer, it's the first win of 2021 in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, and for Stephen McAleer, his first in the series. Victor Gomez brings home the victory in Pro-Am. What a great run from Ashton Harrison. The victory in Am and an LB Cup. Wild Bill Pelichowski is going to drink champagne on the top step of the podium here at COTA. Good drama throughout, and Jeremy, I would think it doesn't get old at Change Racing. We talked about this earlier. They won every championship last year, the 4 different championships, but it does not get old for that team at all. I know it doesn't get old for Madison Snow, and for Stephen McAleer, whom I've watched, whether that was in MX5, Prototype Challenge, you name it. He's a team owner, he's a race car driver, and now he is victorious in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, a series that he has never won in before.
Correct. His first win, and it is 24th start for McAleer. This is Madison Snow's 9th victory. They will lead the points unofficially for Change Racing after this weekend. 28 points to the 23 of Antonucci in the Pro class. In Pro-Am, Victor Gomez with the win today will lead by 1 point over Brandon Godovic and Brian Ortiz, who finished in 2nd position. In Am, Ashton Harrison, today's winner, with the podium finish yesterday, she will have 25 points to the 20 of Gianni Torino. We saw had that incident earlier on, and Alan Metney, the local driver, also on 20 points. In Lamborghini Cup, LB Cup, Bill Pelichowski with a win today, and the 2nd place finish yesterday will have 27 points to the 21 of Mark Kawami and Terry Olsen, who finished 2nd today, and Matt Dickin, yesterday's winner, also on 20 points.
Good stuff. It's a 6-round championship, double races at every weekend, and it all ends in Italy. And what a great place to go to wind it up. Misano, that's where the championships get decided. And expect great racing here in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America all season long. Next up is at Virginia International Raceway. In just a couple weeks' time. As you said, that race got added late because of schedule changes, but expect the same great racing. Congratulations to all our winners in all 4 classes. This is what makes Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America action so exciting. Make sure you join us at VIR. For Jeremy Shaw, I'm Brian Till. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. So long, everyone.